I hope it's not too big.
I was guessing 9:30 would look good. Just based on the agenda.
We are currently live and I will go ahead and start the recording.
As soon as you start the recording. Oh,
Okay, we're ready to go.
okay, then let's go ahead and if you will stand and we'll do the flag salute and get going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey everyone, welcome to our October City Council meeting. Before we proceed on the agenda, councilors, does anyone have any of the, there's really only 2 items that are in there, but any consent agenda topics you would like removed out for regular discussion? James? Michelle?
Nope.
Robert?
Thank you.
Okay. If not, we're going to move right on. Do you need to do roll call or do you have that?
I've already taken roll call.
Wonderful. And let's move on. First topic of the night, discussion regarding water projects.
Okay, you've got the updated cost estimates in front of you. This one is a little more to our likings because it's got the engineering and a contingency wrapped into it. As you see, the total bill for this one is just a little bit under $2.1 million. With that being said, we do have money that we have been putting away for. Melinda ran the numbers, and with STC monies that we believe we could use, we're looking at approximately $900,000
For the project.
for the vault project.
After we put in our STC and other ones.
And right. So, but I would recommend that we don't use all of our SDC money in case something comes up that,
Unforeseen.
yeah, that we could use it for. So I'd say a safe estimate of the money we've got in the bank that we can use for this project would be about $700,000.
Okay. Then what would your total anticipated rehab upgrades total cost? It goes to the voters on a bond be.
For the voters, I think I would go out and ask for 1.5.
You know, offhand, how much that is per $1,000 assessed value?
I don't. I have not looked at it at this point.
Okay.
But I'll do some research and see what that would come up to.
Are we assuming a 30 or a 20-year bond on something like this? Or we haven't gotten to that point. This is just.
When we did the water project back in 2000, we put it on a 20-year bond. So that one's about ready to sunset. So there may be some savings depending on when we actually make the final payments on that.
Okay.
So that what I guess I'm saying is that's already what's being paid for by the citizen. And we might be able to roll that money that we're paying for that project into this one. So the increase to utility billing wouldn't be as significant as what we would think.
So this would give us the pressure boost. This would give us rehabilitation for the well, number one, right?
Yep.
Your SCADA project gets updated, which is something that you've already forecasted that has to be done anyhow.
Right.
And water main replacement projects. And we could already see we have issues around town anyways, currently with leaks here and there.
And it also puts in a new filter and the replacement of media in the existing 2 filters that the media and the filters haven't been changed since the project in 2000. So
20 years
whether we do it here or we budget it for next year, it's one of those things that has to be done.
Okay. And that would be your, oh, I see. That stuff's expensive.
The only place that they mine it from is in New Jersey. So yeah, it's expensive when you got a monopoly on the market.
So I'm going to go around questions that you guys might have. James, do you have any questions?
No, not really.
Michelle, do you have any questions?
When are we planning to put this out for bond?
That'd be a good question. That's what we could talk about as a council.
That's the question I'm posing,
Okay.
is where do we go next?
Okay, so hold on now. Robert, do you have any questions on the list?
No, I think it's quite comprehensive and it's well overdue. I think we need to move forward with this if we can.
I mean, I don't think honestly, 1.5 million to upgrade our water infrastructure is that big of an ask. I was actually scared it was gonna be a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, me too, to be honest with you.
So if I was to, as council, if we were to push forward on a bond like this, would you tell me in 3 years, I'm assuming time to get it all done, I don't know, that if we had a goal setting session again, there would be no water issues on the top of your list?
That would be the design of this project.
Because I remember when we went through
goals.
the goal setting session, you know, the top 3 were all related to water,
Right.
pressure, leaks, and everything else.
And with the well rehabilitation and the extra filter, we're good to go for another $600-700 homes.
So I have a question then for Chief Fudge on this as well. The water pressure boosting pumps, it has on here that fire flow pumps, et cetera. I mean, is this something that the fire department sees an issue with current water? It's sufficient?
What is it currently?
Our current water pressure at the bottom of the tower where you'll get the maximum amount is 46 pounds. You get out to Baines or the new subdivision, you're talking 39-40.
That's not enough.
My house was tested because we had sprinklers put in the backyard and it came out at 41.
That was 42.
And he said, you're on the cusp, so you don't even run a sprinkler
You know,
system.
we really like to have at least 60 pounds on those irons.
Which is what this would end up.
Yeah.
He asked me to turn off my washing machine. Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, mine was, I told him it was in the low 40s. He didn't believe me. He tested it. He was like, you're right. It was low. Okay. What is the next step then on this one?
We, I guess, put together a package and bring it in front of the voters.
Okay. Vicky, is this something that COG can help us with, developing a bond?
That's a good question. We would need to check with them to see if they could do that.
Okay.
Um,
Because
Also
this is
need,
something you want to make sure the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, and I definitely would hope that COG can help us with something like this.
right, and we need to find out which, when it would go before the voters
Right.
and the costs, because depending on when you go, sometimes it costs to do it.
James, that's a
This
question.
is just the water.
Just the water.
This isn't like, you buy a pair of shoes, but you still need socks. So will this affect the sewer
No.
as we progress? I mean, you add more water, and then are we gonna be coming back and saying, oh, we need now to expand sewer? Or should this be something that we look at wrapping together? I mean, I don't know how much sewer. I mean, we talked about some of that. Is there a little bit of wiggle room in here to add some sewer contingency and still get it past the voters?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer because I've never looked at a project that way. It's always for some specific things. Now, it is possible that when we are mandated by DEQ to do our discharge upgrades, that the cost of that would be more than what we have currently available for it. So we would have to go out for another bond for that. And the sewer side of it, when we're mandated to do it, there's no beating around the bush. It's something that has to be done. So it's pretty much mandated on us by the state. And yes, you will add to your utility bills whatever the cost to do that project is. End of discussion. And you've got this amount of time to get it done.
So my concern as a voter would be, well, I know we need new water, but there's gotta be something on the sewer end of it. I don't wanna have to go back to the voters in a year and a half.
Yeah, now, were we gonna add a new cartridge or something like that into the sewer plant, or a new filter or something that was gonna help accommodate any increased flow? I thought that was something that was discussed.
No.
Okay.
What was discussed, what we're looking at is having to cool the water temperature down before it reaches Mill Creek.
Right, that's the discharge one.
Yeah, that's the
Well, I was
discharge.
talking about the increased water pressure, right, more water coming into the system.
But the thing about it is what you're looking at is the only way you'll get more water into the system is by increasing the amount of users.
or bigger drains.
So we're
Yeah,
kind of, this is kind of gearing us up for that.
It is. And, you know, we are also staring down the possibility of a very big new subdivision going in.
So would this allow us to handle that?
Yeah, the water system would be perfectly
But the sewer is the question, really.
right. And we're sitting with the sewer at this point where I did the quick math on it, and at one point somebody had said possibly 450 houses and apartments, you get 450 services equal to what single family homes. And we've got the capacity in the wastewater system to handle that now, but not much more. We'd be pushing pretty much the maximum on that.
So if the 80+ acres is developed, that would be maxed out at that point.
Yep. Our sewer system would be maxed out.
And we talked about that would max out sewer, which means industrial usage
That would be the
would
concern.
come to a slow down time. So it's a trade-off because we don't quite have everything we need to possibly do even more than just that. So what's the feasibility, and is it allowed to add a contingency to a bond for future?
For watching what's going on with the school, because I'm very involved in the school bond. The money that is brought out from the bond must be spent on the projects outlined in the bond within 3 years, or it has to be returned. So you can't build a contingency and just hold on to it, unless you have an explicit purpose for that. But it still has to be spent within a certain amount of time. You just can't take money out on a bond at 3% and then invest it and turn around and make money on it. Does that make sense? At least that's what I've witnessed. So you can have contingencies, and you want to fund on the contingent, you want to have a contingency fund if something happens, water mains or whatever. But we can't do a forecasted, we're going to take this money out now and use it in the future when we need it. Does that make sense? I don't think we can.
However, there is a slight bit of a backdoor on this. We're talking about using SDC money. Well, SDC money can be used on any new infrastructure upgrade. So it doesn't have to be spent on the water project. We can ask for that money that we were going to use the SDC money for in the bond. So say we can save ourselves an extra $250,000.
And just ask for 1.75.
Right. But we can't do that with the money that we have put away for the pressure increase, because that money has to be used specifically on that project.
Because we have a slight contingency for water, a slight contingency now for sewer. And we're going to tell the voters, well, we just want to do this one. I would think they would go hand in hand. We're not going to ask voters to repave streets and then turn around in 2 years saying, we're going to put all the water lines down the center of them right after we want to come out as being
But it's,
forthcoming.
my assumption would be though the sewer upgrades wouldn't impact the streets, right? You're just talking the sewer.
Right,
waste
but I'm
street.
just saying,
Yeah.
I just don't see how the two wouldn't go hand in hand. Would hate to have to ask.
What would it cost to upgrade the capacity within the sewer plant? And
I don't have that answer. I'd have to talk to Matt and come up with some sort of a plan to do everything we want to do at the wastewater plant. But my guess with the cooling process that we're going to have to put in, you're probably talking about $2.5 to $3 million. Now, reminder that we have about 1.5 in the bank for that one.
Yeah, but I'm not as much worried about the cooling, because DEQ should give us some time to be able to handle it and roll it in. They can't just mandate to do it. You gotta have
Oh,
time.
yeah, they can. It's a mandate that says do it, and then they'll give you benchmarks. Okay, you gotta have the engineering.
Exactly. But I mean, it's gonna be over
Right.
time. It's,
Yes,
but I agree with what James is saying, and that is, we have a forecasted city plan in the sense that we know they're gonna eventually develop that.
right.
So it might be nice to understand how can we ensure that we have some sort of excess capacity, if you would, of the sewer plant as well. I think that's what you're referring to, James, is to ensure that we don't max it out, but can we keep a 20% capacity for potential future growth or industrial needs? So maybe the question might be back to Public Works. This is good, okay? A lot cheaper than I thought it was gonna be. What would it cost to ensure that once this is, not even this aside, what would it take to ensure that our water treatment plant would maintain a buffer, if you would, in terms of usage? I don't know the correct term to use on that one. But what do we have to do to increase the capacity within the waste treatment plant to give us to allow us excess capacity even after the 50 or 80 acres is built? I think that's what's being asked.
Okay. There are some things that we can do that are relatively inexpensive. I need to talk to Matt about that and run the numbers.
So is it okay if council give direction for them to just go and bring that back then next month? And in the meantime, maybe we can also reach out to the COG though and ask, what does it take to get a bond type effort moving forward? Because I've never personally done one, but I'm assuming the COG probably has experts that have.
So, and if one set of bonds coming to a closure, we would like to pick up where that lays off with a slight increase. Is that what we're?
It sounds like a slight increase. What was the last bond measure? What was it about?
We actually have two out there now. The one that I'm talking about was for the water upgrade in 2000, and that one was for 1.2 million, I think, if my memory serves me right, 1.2, 1.3. So it's still in the same ballpark as what we're
Very
talking
relatively
now.
close.
And in 2000, I believe the interest rates weren't as good as they are now. So.
Okay.
If the COG is not able to help us, do I have authorization to talk with our city attorney about the process?
I would say yes. Robert, do you have any concern on that one?
No, I think that would be the appropriate course.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussions on the water project? Okay, Mike, thanks.
Yep, and I'll get you those numbers for the next meeting and we'll talk sewer.
It's a crappy job.
It is.
I had, that was totally sad. Okay, next one, discussion regarding personnel evaluation process, which is this huge chunk. Did take a note that the Library of Congress process seemed very onerous with their rating aggregates and everything else.
Pretty serious.
I want to give people an idea of what was out there. I know Vicky had some.
So do you have a recommendation on it then?
I think for us here, simpler is better and easier. I like the idea of the self-assessment combined with the employee performance review, but the one that has the Likert scale, 1
So
through 5.
whose is this? I pulled this one out of the bunch because I liked it. It looked simplest, but yet still accomplishing what we were looking
I
for.
forgot what the name of the thing is.
This one looked like I was joining the army.
Yes. But sometimes you don't know
Flashbacks on
unless
that
you
one.
look at several of them that are out there,
Yes, and I saw the Hillsborough ones before.
right?
My concern, and I chatted a little bit with Vicky while we were waiting for everyone to gather,
Uh-huh.
was my hope is to try to keep the process as simple as possible, because in 4 years, I don't want whoever is in these positions to just go, this is way too complicated and throw it out.
Right.
Hopefully, we put something in that becomes institutionalized.
Right.
That's my hope. So,
Well, and from where my thought process was, with the self-assessment, the employees coming in saying, here's what I've done. Because I think the last time we were lost on what was done. You know, you can come with a job description and that gives you a general idea. But when you do a self-assessment and you come forward, then you're saying, here's what I've accomplished this year. And I think you self-evaluate yourself to allow somebody else to see, okay, are we coming in? Am I seeing what you're seeing?
Exactly. I agree. I think the self-assessment is where we failed last time.
Mhm.
Thoughts, James, what are your thoughts on what you're seeing?
I thought we were gonna start doing beekeeping a little bit, because I read the whole part about the beekeeper and I was like,
I didn't get that far.
where are we? I think there's some really good information here, and this would definitely have been helpful our first go around. I can see us moving forward from here, taking the best of all that these have to offer. And I know Michelle's got a lot of time into it. I appreciate her getting back to us like this, because I feel much more comfortable visualizing it.
What about you, Tyler?
I would take this, the one you were talking about, this exact form. I would just take the number of things down from 6 to 5. So whatever the categories are, job knowledge, work quality, I'd probably get rid of attendance, punctuality, have
Which one are you-
productivity, communication, listening skills, and dependability, probably the 5 I would pick, just to make it even more simplified. But I think I would use this exact form. And then you have an overall rating, additional comments, employee goals. It's really straightforward and simple versus we were grading on a scale of 4, which made it really difficult.
Yeah.
And we had, I think, 8 categories, which is too many.
I agree.
But I like this layout a lot.
I'm sorry, which one are you looking at?
Oh, this one, the blue one. It doesn't have a name on it. so I'm not-
Employee
So Robert, so you can
performance.
follow along, what we're talking about is in that employee evaluation deck, there is a grouping that has self-assessment, employee performance review, all in the bolded deep blue color. And the page he's referring to is the employee performance review, which is page 1 of 2. Just so you know, I just want to make sure you're aligned on what we're looking at.
Mr. Mayor, appreciate that. With this plethora of information that has been provided, I'd like us to do a work session where we can talk specifically about this and we can make a decision before we move forward. That would be my recommendation.
You absolutely read my mind. My next request was going to be, I noticed the planning commission was canceled next week. Is that the case?
Right.
So I don't know, is everyone available next? I'd like to try to get this done sooner rather than later because we're heading in to evaluation time.
I can do it remotely.
Can you do it remotely?
I won't be available.
You won't be? Okay. Then I tell you what, I'll just give, if Vicky's okay with it, just take an AR, just a follow-up to see when we can pull together a work session within the next week or so.
Okay.
Would that work, Robert?
It would, depending on what night we hold the session.
True.
My
Yes.
work schedule.
We can just do a remote. We don't need to.
A Zoom, okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of information. I would like to make sure we come out of the work session with just, this is the package we're going to use. Because there is a lot.
Robert, can you shoot me some dates that would work for you, dates and times? Just send me an email and then I'll distribute those out to see if everyone else can, which ones work for everybody else.
Next week, the only date that I have would be the 22nd.
Which is
Otherwise, I'm busy every night.
22nd. So it looks like next week.
22nd is a Thursday.
Yeah, I'm not available. I'm
Okay,
not
so the
available.
following week. Let's just, we could take it offline, we'll figure it out. Michelle, on that grouping, anything else you want to mention, bring up? Any concerns that you might have? Anything from that huge packet that kind of was like a euphoric moment of, aha?
Just that some of them are definitely too wordy and too much.
Someone-
And I'm still with simpler is better,
I believe in keeping it simple.
but yeah.
Okay, well, on this particular topic then, the request is for us to set up a work session probably within a couple of weeks. to where council can get together with the goal of producing the assessment packet, I guess the best way to call it, which will include the final layout and form for the self-assessment, as well as for the evaluation.
In our evaluations, you know.
We want to start them soon. Last time we talked, we wanted the self-assessments to start this month.
Okay.
So my assumption is after the work session, we release it to department heads, and we'll start on the self-assessment process. And then hopefully in November, November or December, we'll set up the review cycle. I do know though, we have issues though, because of the calendar, the way we had it before, where it was October, and for probations, et cetera. So I don't know if there's a concern with that. My hope would be to try to push it more towards the end of the year. So if we have a merit increase or a recommended increase raise, we can bring it into the next fiscal budget planning. And
So you have 2 that are in October. If you do a merit increase or whatever, you could always retro it back to October.
that works.
I like December, because there's a lot of time between October and December. You know,
More
I'm
time.
getting graded on 10 months, or are you grading on 12 months? Or is it hasn't been?
That was
October
last
to
October. It would have been 12 months from the last October, minus Judy, who we did in October and then again in April.
Okay.
Who did we do in October? I think
Well,
you.
Mike and Mike and Judy are due in October.
Mike's looking at me like, can't believe you're pushing off.
I've got no problems with it because it will be retroactive back to October.
So let's shoot for the work session though, at least come out with a work product.
Okay.
that we can use. Any other questions on this one before we move on? Okay. And Robert, I'll just assume sometimes silence is you don't have any questions.
I have no questions.
Let's go on to mayor and or council presentations.
I don't have a presentation, but I have a topic for discussion.
Sure.
Halloween, trick or treating. I think we probably should put something out about our stance, or that we don't have one, or if we do. My thoughts would be, say people are planning on trick or treating. Some people might not want to participate. So I think the light on, light off thing, if you're participating, have your light on. If you're not, don't. We recommend social distancing and masks and whatever, but we're not going to tell people what to do, but just so that it's out there.
I agree. Excellent. Halloween's not a national holiday. It's a recognized holiday. It's just an evening. That's why the state hasn't done anything. They can't, quite honestly. It's really to the individuals on what they're going to do. I've been following the social media discussion, and the common consensus I've seen on there when the discussion's civil is if you don't want to participate, turn your light off.
Yeah.
And other than that, it seems like most people are planning to be pretty conscientious about what they're doing, whether it is using the tube things to hand out candy or having pre-sanitized bags or wiping out, just crazy stuff. But yeah, I would agree with you, Councilor. I would not, as a city council, want to recommend that people don't do it because these kids need to be kids.
Yeah.
You know, they've already lost a lot.
It'd be nice to see us do a media campaign to be responsible and coming from us.
So do we have a councilor that wants to draft communicate? Or do you guys want me to do it?
I can do it. I'll do it. I brought it up.
Okay. Go ahead and draft one out and just send it out to us and we can yay or nay it on.
Okay. And this is going on Facebook?
Huh?
Where's this?
I'm assuming Facebook will post it on the city website. Just let them know the guidance from the city,
Okay.
from the city council.
Okay.
Or not even guidance, recommendations.
Recommendations.
It's a good open.
Okay.
Or topic. Councilor Thomas, anything else on your list?
That's all for me.
Michelle? James? Robert?
I do have one this time.
Awesome.
So, as you know, I'm on the board of directors for Love Santa Incorporated, a nonprofit that assists families in North Marion County, Woodburn, Hubbard, Donald, and Aurora. And this year we are looking at issues due to health restrictions, concerns, etc., for a variety of reasons. And we're anticipating a decrease in the number of volunteers. We're having to worry about the types of donations that we accept and how those are handled. And the board of directors is going to meet again here next week, actually. And hopefully we can find a roadmap to get us to a distribution. But in short, this year is going to look a lot different than years past for our opportunities. So please stay tuned, and we will let you know how it's best for people that want to donate, how they can donate. Most likely it's going to be a request for money rather than objects. And we'll get that out as soon as we can. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the update, Robert. I don't have anything specific. I just have things that I'll flower as we go through on the disc golf course, the book letters, stuff like that. Those updates are in the section on line sites on. If we have no others, let's move on to staff reports, and we'll start off with Chief Bunch.
Mayor Russell and council members, just give you a brief update on where we're at with our operational levy. We approved the voter approved in April. So we promised three things: hire additional firefighters, get mutual aid agreements with our neighboring fire districts, and buy some new equipment. So we're making good on all those. We got our 2 firefighters hired up in August. They came on board. Someone here 24/7. And when we augment that with some of our volunteers, we usually have 3 people here all the time. So that's a big improvement. Because of that, we're able to get those mutual aid agreements with Woodburn and Aurora. So whenever Woodburn or Hubbard is out, Woodburn or Aurora will dispatch their career staff engines. So they'll be in here within 5 minutes. So that was a big part of the bond levy, or excuse me, the operating levy, and it's already proving very valuable. So, and the equipment purchasing, we've got about $40,000 in equipment sitting here on this table. All that is through the CARES Act. So we had budgeted that this year to buy that. Most of the expensive part is that cardiac monitor. That was part of our budgeted expenses for this year, and we're able to get that funded through the CARES grant. So we're happy for that. We can use that money on something else.
Well, I want to commend you on your communication with us and the council during the fires last month. Your report outs were detailed, they were reassuring, and I know we passed them on very quickly via social media and everyone else to help calm down some of the fear that was definitely spreading. But
Well, thank you.
you guys did a great job, and always sad to hear the sirens running around, but I know that our citizens are being well cared.
Thank you.
Anyone have a question or a follow-up for Chief Budget? Robert, anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Let's move on to the Police Department and Sergeant Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I am Sergeant Anderson, Humber Police, and I am sitting in for Chief Rash, who's out of state temporarily. You have the chief's report. Pretty straightforward stuff. We've been pretty busy. The case that Officer Jimenez had with the storage unit turned out to be a pretty good case for us. It was we worked it to its logical conclusion and then sent it on to some federal agencies who were also looking at these individuals in multiple states. That turned into a major case. Officer Jimenez did a phenomenal job on that investigation and worked well with our partners in law enforcement in multiple states. That was a good case for us. We had a busy month. Like I said, we arrested 25 people on various things, and we could do that again this month. Not a whole lot more to add to what's on the report. Anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
A question for you on the code enforcement, and this might be maybe even more directed to Vicki. Have we had anyone that got sent that letter for the right of way, et cetera, reach back out to the city?
There were a few people that contacted the chief to get some clarity about what exactly was going on. We haven't started the enforcement of that. We are preparing to do that. I just received some more information, and we've got a map that we're putting together to ensure that we are on the same page. So we're not out there talking to people that maybe this doesn't apply to. So we want to make sure we're dialed in before we get started on this. And once we do that, then we'll make contact. And we'll just take them each at a time, as they come.
I appreciate you guys taking that soft approach to it, I guess. Would be what I say.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to get compliance, obviously. We don't want to do anything other than compliance is what we're looking for. So that's what we're after.
And you have a big, lack of a better term, cultural change in the sense that people are used to using it. They're used to non-code enforcement on it. So it's something different.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of people are used to using that space, and just kind of the assumption that it's okay. So we're going to have to be as diplomatic as we can to make this happen.
Anyone have a question? I'm just looking around for nods. Okay, Robert, do you have any questions for the members?
The only question I would have is regards to the policy changes. I just want to make sure these have already been discussed amongst the agency and officers are working under the new guidelines.
Robert, we have discussed that, and we all, we're all on the same page with regards to what the new changes are. So yes, that's been discussed and addressed, and it's, everybody has a full understanding of what the expectation is moving forward.
I personally understood that. I just wanted the council and the community as a whole to realize that you've already worked towards that and already working under the new guidelines. Thank you.
You guys are very proactive on that. In fact, I think you guys, I knew from Chief Rash months ago. You guys are working on this. So, if there's no further questions, then thank you. Let's move on to Vicky.
Okay, I do have a question for you guys. The elections department is wanting to put in a permanent election drop box. And the location that they originally were looking at is when you pull up to City Hall, our original mailbox is there. And then there's the ADA ramp. And then there's the other side of that bump out. And we were looking at the other side of that bump out to put the permanent drop box there. And when they came out to look at it, the drop box has 4 legs. So it's a little bit bigger because they can't just put it in the concrete. They have to put it down. They have to dig it or take the concrete out, put that in the ground and re-pour the concrete.
Stealing that thing.
Right. So,
And do they pay for
I
that?
wouldn't say.
Yeah,
I'm assuming they are.
yes.
Just checking.
So I've had further discussions since I wrote this in my memo, but the other location that we were looking at, if this didn't work out, was the parking space that is right just west of that. So we would lose a parking space because they would have to put the drop box out in the parking space because you have to have the sidewalk a certain width for ADA requirements.
Okay.
So after we talked about that, it was talking further, it sounded like they might be able to extend the curb out because there's plenty of room there. But their concern was also if they had, if they do put it there on that bump out, then somebody that parks in that parking spot might be an issue for somebody driving up there. And I mentioned, well, on election day, we could put that as a no parking. We could put cones out there and make it a no parking space. So I just wanted to, one, make sure that you're okay with them trying to make the bump out work. And if not, are you okay with losing a parking space?
The idea is that they don't get out of their car.
Right. They want to have it. The only way they're going to put in a permanent one is if it is a drive up drop box.
Like the post office.
Except on the right side of the road.
Right.
Yeah, I'm never okay with that. We probably won't cross the driveway.
It's crazy.
Passengers. My preference would be bump out first
Yes.
before the parking space.
Okay.
That would never happen.
I wouldn't want to lose a parking space there.
But they'd already, when we usually have normal councils, it could get packed up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That would be my recommendation. James, I don't know if you have a preference, but I mean.
Make everybody walk.
I don't really want to lose the parking spot.
I think they'll make the bump out work. It sounds like that's what they want to do.
But
They
if,
don't want-
but if not, I just want to make sure that there's a consensus that it's okay to do the parking spot.
I'm a hard no on that.
You're a hard no on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to lose a parking space. I'm also more concerned about aesthetically what it would look like as well. Now you got this huge sidewalk coming out.
It would just be a box. It would be a box out in the parking space. The sidewalk would still be there.
Oh, that would look ugly.
So,
Yeah, now.
and then they could drive up to it and continue on.
So on either other side of that would be wasted space.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They would just basically dump it in a parking spot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work the bump out. If
Okay.
not-
Bump out or nothing.
Yeah, bump out or not. They could-
Okay.
they could-
How much,
I could just see it now. Just
upgrade
a
do they
big
plan
blue
to
box
do
in the
to that?
middle of a parking spot.
They would just dig out the curb and the sidewalk there where the bump out is, and then they'd have to re-pour it all.
Right, but if they're going to do that anyway, there is no reason why they couldn't enlarge that bump out to make it work for what they need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think there'd be any problem if they're willing to go ahead and do that.
Mhm.
They gotta make that space a little bit bigger. Yeah, not a big issue because you're not taking any space from any of the parking spots.
Yeah.
Just squaring it off to where they can get the box in.
Okay, so I think you've got the council's direction then.
Okay.
Robert, I didn't hear from you though.
The one concern that I would have is wherever they put it, I would not want the city to have to worry about making an area no parking, because if we forget to do that, then we cause problems. I would prefer that it be put wherever a car can drive up, drop it off, and leave immediately without being a problem. I like the idea of the bump out if that's possible, but I'm not opposed to taking up a parking space if necessary.
I think the direction that you hear though is still bump out. What can we do not to have a closed space, but I can't be a vote on the parking space because I can't see a box being dumped in it. It would look like crap. Pardon my language.
I guess if they can't do the bump out, then maybe we can talk about it. But, yeah.
Are they
You
trying
want to do
to,
this? before
Well, they got to
that?
do this before
Oh, wow.
I told them I'd get back to them because they're ready
Totally do the
to,
bump out.
do it now?
okay. Yeah.
Why can't they put it over there by the fire hydrant?
Be on the wrong side.
How would it be on the wrong side?
It'd be like the post office.
We don't want to be like the post office. Mickey, did you say there was some reason why they couldn't put it next to the existing box? Or is it they have to re-engineer that whole pad to fit?
Yeah, it won't fit right next to the box, our current box, but they were short. I forget what he said, 6 inches or something like that. He had to turn it diagonal. So in order to make it fit correctly, they would have to push the bump out, make it larger, like you say, and also put the curb back in there in order to make it work right.
Even if they did that in that space, if they added another foot and went to the west from that existing area,
Mhm.
you'd still be able to maintain parking on that west parking space without
Right.
blocking the crosswalk. So I think there's
Yep.
room
Right.
to just expand the size of that pad, maybe good.
Can our box be moved
Right.
over?
No, our box is taking up the other side of the bump out.
And you can't move it over because what you got in the middle of it is the ADA ramp.
Yeah.
Can we just make sure Mike's there when they do it so
Yeah.
that we don't get something we don't want?
Yeah, I
Railroad crossing signs, you know?
Definitely take a
Yeah.
look at it and see what they're willing to do.
Okay.
Their only concern was, and this was the issue, was when the guy that was out there looking, he was parked in the spot right there. But he wasn't right next to the curb. He was out. So if somebody was going to try to come up and pull up there and put their ballot in, they would have had to get out of their car and put the ballot in because the car was in the way that he parked. So that's why I was saying we could, put that as a no parking spot for one day if necessary.
The other thing about it is if you park close enough to the curb, then you're not gonna have any problems with people sideswiping you as they swoop in the box. It may come close, but
Mhm.
if they were to hit you, if you're all the way against the curb, you'd run into the box.
Mhm.
And normally what you see in that space is generally employees.
Right.
So just tell them you're gonna park in that space,
Mhm.
move it over close to the curb.
I won't be parking there anymore.
Okay, well, I think
Okay, I
you
got
just
it.
make sure Mike's there and see what we can do. to make it
Okay.
work on the bump out.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything to add. Oh, the awning, we're still looking. We're having a difficult time finding an awning that is, has the requirements that the building code are requesting.
Darn city codes.
If you want, send me over the specs for that, because I haven't seen them yet. And I'll send them out to a few of our vendors and see if they got any suggestions on where to get something like that.
Okay, well, we did find a few, but
They're expensive.
no, they were just, they were bad.
Alphabetically pleasing.
They look like they should go on the side of a shed.
Okay.
So, but yes, I will do that. Thank you. And then I don't have anything else unless you have questions on my report.
Counselor Tyler? Yeah.
Remind me, are we accepting ballots or do we have to go to Woodburn or how is it?
I just spoke with them today. We're going to be putting a sign on our window that says we're in the process of putting a permanent box there, and that the closest site is the Woodburn Library.
Yeah.
So, but
Do we have an ETA on when they actually want to try to get that box in? Like, when do they think they'll get it in?
I won't know until I talk to him tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ballot's supposed to go out tomorrow,
Yes.
so.
I know
they're
they've,
gonna want 'em up there.
I just met with this guy last week. I'm not sure what the holdup was on, them installing all these boxes. I have no idea.
We didn't wait till the last second.
Right.
Yeah, literally.
There's that.
Michelle, do you have any questions?
I do not.
James?
Just a reminder, newsletter October 15th.
Yes.
Yeah, I've already know I'm gonna be late. Robert?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's move on to finance. Judy?
Hi, Mayor and City Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you have my report in front of you, and at this time, I don't have anything to add. Do you guys have any questions?
I do have a couple, or actually one. On the monthly revenue overview chart, there's two that keep popping up unfavorable. I noticed it last month too. And is there any concern from finance on this unfavorable ranking, or what's the criteria that triggers favorable versus unfavorable? A negative versus positive?
If it was below the line, we'd have a serious concern, but on the chart, those are actually probably monies that we haven't collected yet throughout the year.
So that would be year-to-date taxes for this month is showing a variance to budget of negative 4K roughly.
For that month, yes. And then, of course, the franchise fees come in quarterly.
So is there a threshold where you think as a city council, there should be actions taken if there's a certain, I'm just curious, when it says unfavorable, is there any action that should be taken?
Not to my knowledge, because you're going to see that for the year-to-date taxes, you're going to see that change in November. And as the franchise fees come in, you're going to see that change also.
Okay. So the year-to-date taxes and year-to-date franchise fees on a monthly review will probably always show unfavorable because there's a slight variance and we're not always caught up.
Correct.
Okay. Tyler, do you have any questions?
Are we talking about the property tax exemption?
That is later on the
Okay,
agenda.
all
Yeah,
right, no questions.
that's why I figured we'd wait. Michelle?
None.
Jim? Robert?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Vicki, you handed out this.
Yes, I would like to get some clarification And for those on Zoom, I went ahead and uploaded this afternoon. It is a copy of the billing and collection of utility charges and also a copy of the back of the bill that goes out within the water billing. I would like to get some clarification from the city council if the utility billing fees are back to the process outlined in the code. And if you don't want it that way, then what is the process? So what the past practice has been in the code for utility shut-offs is that all the utility payments are entered into the system and on shut-off day. And at 10 o'clock, approximately 10 o'clock, if you make it on the shut-off list, you get charged the $50. And then that way we have a time frame and we don't run into this situation where my water hasn't been shut off yet. Well, I'm sorry, but you're on the shut off list. They're probably in process of doing that. So, so all the bills are to have been paid in full prior to water turn on, unless they have made payment arrangements, which are supposed to be done prior to when the bills are due on the 10th of the month, which is what you'll see on the billing statement. Or it's on the back of the billing statement. I highlighted that for you.
Vicki, I'm not seeing what you're referring to, a billing statement. I don't see a copy of that.
It's on the city's website under the council packets. I uploaded another packet. It is the billing and collection of utilities, and then on the back of that is the billing statement.
Okay, I wasn't aware that we had to go to the website. I'll do that right now.
I'm sorry, maybe the voice or whatever cut out on the system. I did mention that.
So, are you looking then, your request is the guidance, was guidance from council when we went back to normal shut off and billing, because we did suspend it. My assumption is when we proceeded back to normal, it was back to our regular process.
I just want to get clarification because that's not what I'm seeing is happening. So I want to make sure that that's what we're doing, that's what you guys want us to do. So it seems like if people call in at whatever time, then they get their $50 refunded or $10 late fee refunded. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, that we're going back to what this billing and collection of utility charges are in the chapter and on chapter 1309, and what was lined out on the billing statement and what our process has been in the past.
I would say when we voted to go back to regular shut-off cycles, we resumed regular process.
Okay.
That was the assumption I made.
I agree.
Michelle, did you think anything different?
I did not think anything.
James, do you? No. And Robert, did you have any different impression when we voted to move back away from the temporary COVID shut-offs?
No, we are back at regular billing intervals, regular processes.
Right.
Okay, council, I have a question to that.
Sure.
So, in the municipal code, it states that the $50 shut off is to when the water is shut off. We're going to charge that $50 fee. So if the Public Works hasn't shut their water off, is there a leeway to waive that fee to keep the customer happy, especially the new customers?
We do have a one-time waiver of new customers that's listed out in the code.
Yes, I understand that, Vicki, but I also have customers who are new customers who haven't understood the process of every other month billing, and I've had to explain that several times to several different customers.
Okay, but you give them once, they got to figure it out. If not, you incentivize it by the late fee. That's what it is.
Yeah. The code is the code. It's written correctly. I would say, sorry if they don't understand and re-educate them if there's a second time that happens.
So
But-
I guess my question is if the water has not been shut off, is there an okay from the council to waive that fee?
No,
No,
Okay,
When Public Works goes out to shut them off, they get the list and they go out, right?
they go out.
If
Right.
somebody shows up all of a sudden and says, hey, here's my money.
It doesn't work
Would you
that way.
call them on the radio and say, don't do this one?
No, we tell them you gotta go deal with it at City Hall.
Yep.
Now, in the past, what the standard has been is the list comes out, say 10 o'clock. If you're on that list and it gets handed to Public Works, you owe that $50 fee.
All right.
It's an incentive fee to get your stuff in order. And if there is a one-time waiver fee for new residents that didn't know it, that's great.
And they get their.
But I'm sorry, one time you get a pass, the second time you gotta pay the penalty.
Also on we don't have a mechanism for a credit for the $10 fee. So I want to make sure we don't have a one-time fee of the late fee. We don't have a one-time credit like we do for the $50. So I want to make sure, and that's, it's not in the code to allow that. So I want to make sure you guys are all, whatever.
I've donated many a $10 to this city because I'm like,
Thank you.
it's not in the code, so.
Me too.
Okay.
I want to make sure, and I agree with Councilor Thomas on this, it's the code. And it was put in place, we gotta follow it. If you start making exceptions here, exceptions there, we find ourselves in a code enforcement issue 20 years later with alleyways.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions for Vicky? Not Vicky, Finance. Okay, Public Works Department.
Okay, you've got my thing in front of you. We have two changes on this. First one would be item 6. I got a call from the guy that's heading up the ADA compliance, the lawsuit things that they're doing that actually triggered this. And he's allowing us to make a proposal to his boss that just allows us to get it to where it needs to be in the interim. So that would be just grinding and getting it a little bit wider with the radiuses. So we can do it that way, which will be a whole lot cheaper than having to go in and get land and do it the way the state has to do it per the lawsuit. So we're exploring that. So we may get lucky, cross your fingers, that we won't have to do the full blown.
What's the potential cost? What's our exposure on that?
ODOT has set aside $25,000 per ADA ramp that they have to do. This one may be a little bit more expensive because there'll have to be some land negotiated with the Shell station because there's not enough room to do what would be required to do there, and it would also require us to move back his main sign. So we're talking probably $40,000 to $50,000
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad negotiation.
For a ramp for
that goes
crosswalk
nowhere.
that,
Doesn't even
Right.
exist.
I'm like,
Okay, what help do you need from city council on this? Anything we can do?
I don't believe so. I don't think calling these people would make any difference. Because what's happening is they're looking at the cost to them overall to do these. I think there's like 2,200 ramps throughout the state that they have to do, and it's just one off their list. So what's saving us here possibly is they're not starting the project until 2022. And they're gonna be coming through town anyway and doing, what, about 6? So they're thinking we'll just re-up it to our standards at that time. But in the meantime, we'll have to do something that meets their specifications.
So when is that meeting with you and the ODOT representative, whoever it is?
I had the meeting with the engineer
On Monday, he came out and took a look at it. He's gonna draw up some plans and send them off to him. Something fairly simple because there's only about a 50-50 chance that they'll buy into this. And if it's a hard no from the upper end of ODOT, then we've got to go ahead and do the ramp. And the engineer at the time when I was out there talking to him, he said, on this project, you might just take half the money and let them keep the other half of the money because it's going to cost you almost that much to put this ramp in.
Let me know how the meeting goes. I don't think we need to jump in. I think there's other avenues of ODOT's pushing back on this. You're
Okay.
talking a $50,000 cost for us to put a ramp in on a city that is looking at trying to put a $1 million bond. We don't have a lot of money. At $50K to put a ramp in and move a sign. Something tells me we could put pressure outside of ODOT and other avenues to get ODOT to back off on that.
On a corner that has no sidewalks.
That was gonna be something I was gonna bring up.
I'll bring out a
Who's
TV
responsible
camera
for
and I'll bring out a news station. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Who's
But-
responsible for the sidewalk? Because why have the ADA ramp if you don't have a sidewalk up to code? Who's responsible for that?
They're not putting in the sidewalk. We had initially talked to them, about a year ago, they came out and met with us. And they said, well, if we're gonna put in all these ADA ramps, let's talk about putting sidewalks through town. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, okay, we've got sidewalk on the east side from D Street north. Why don't we go ahead and put sidewalk on the west side from D Street south? Because there's infill there, because there's certain places that have sidewalk. They entertained that for about 3 months and decided they didn't have the money for it on this project. So they're building, most of the ones that they're building in town go nowhere. They're gonna be building an ADA ramp on the west side of the northwest side of A Street. And there's no sidewalk going anywhere there. It's just dirt at this point, but they're gonna have a really nice ADA ramp there at one point because that's part of the lawsuit.
Do you know the answer to this question, or maybe you don't? So they put in the ADA ramp without a sidewalk up to code. Subject A goes up the ADA ramp in their wheelchair, and they turn on to no sidewalk or nothing up to code sidewalk, fall out of their wheelchair because there's no sidewalk up to code and hit their head. Who's responsible for that?
I don't have the answer for that. I can speculate.
I'd be curious to find out, because, I mean, they're requiring us to do that, but would they require the property owner to put in the sidewalk up to code?
But don't legally in the state of Oregon, they consider every intersection a crosswalk?
Yes.
Well, that's why they're doing the ADA.
And that's why they have to do something, because every intersection.
I got to agree with Turner on this one. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see someone suing ODOT when they fall off a stupid ramp. Okay, let us know how it goes.
Yep, I will
If it
keep
doesn't
you-
go well, bring it to council next month and we'll talk about ways to apply pressure outside.
Okay. And the other one is item number 9. That's the Fifth Street project. The contractor got back a hold of us and said they're not starting until the week of the 21st. And I think that's pretty cut and dried because I've got a pre-construction meeting with them on Monday. So I think they're going to actually pull the trigger on that one. So at the time this was printed, it said October 12th. Well, now it's the 21st.
I didn't see anybody out there yesterday, so pretty safe to assume it wasn't gonna start yesterday.
So a few things I would add on to here then, for your item number 4, yeah, Matt did a great job organizing. They're doing the disc golf course. They spent 2 weekends now working on it. 3 of the 4 pads are poured. 1 more is gonna happen this weekend. The first weekend, or the first Saturday, we had a lot of volunteers show up. Boy Scout troop showed up, did a lot of the excavating. City Public Works, great guy, showed up, provided a great hand. Jan's family showed up, cleared out vegetation. Oh my goodness, they took out a lot of vegetation. Cleaned it up. A lot of work still needs to be done, but it's moving along. The other part, it's, where was it? Here was, somewhere on here, it was, I thought it was on here. Anyways, the public libraries, we have 2 built now.
Okay,
Ones that would go to Rivinus and ones that would go to Barnsley. They're constructed to be undercover. They're currently being painted by some high school students. And I have a preview picture if anyone wants to see it. One of them's actually really cool. Once they're done, I'll be putting plexiglass in it for hanging. So I'll give it to Public Works at that point. I understand you guys have another one to put permission in to put it by the post office. And then we still have the one on the other side of 99E. My question, did we ever find out if the money was ever donated for those, for the next parts of the project?
no,
Okay. So the first boxes are done, they're donated, so no worries on that, but
the thing about it is, Public Works has some miscellaneous monies that we can use for, the cost on some of this.
the reason I bring it up is if we had the funding for it, there are some Boy Scout troops that are looking for Eagle Scout projects. We can't fundraise for them, but if we were able to fund them, then they can give it to an Eagle Scout and they can build the last 2. That would be my suggestions.
Do you know how much we're talking about?
The 2 that were built over the weekend were $300 and some in material.
Each?
No, together.
Oh, okay.
So about 150, because you have to, and the ones that have to go into the exposed weather areas will be significantly more. You're gonna have retreated wood and so forth. And those costs also, just as it was a lot of donated roofing material that went on, stuff like that. But, so if we do, let me know. I will put
we do.
I'll let the Boy Scouts know that there are these 2 projects that would be right up the alley for an Eagle
Okay.
Scout project. But hopefully we'll have those other ones painted and sealed and delivered to Public Works in the coming weeks.
Nice.
Those are the 2 only add-ons I have for you.
Okay.
I have a couple.
Go ahead. I was gonna have to go around.
Update on the Crosswalk audio devices that we talked about maybe a year ago that I believe Marty was discussing. Is that ever gonna come to fruition or is that on back order?
Already installed.
Pretty simple.
Up
In
here?
fact, I think we have one actually malfunctioning, by the way. My son informed me, my 12-year-old, that you can't cross there, it doesn't work. Go to this side. So,
Well, all
I
you
don't know
have
which
to
one it
do
is,
is, pull into Dollar General, roll down your window and listen, because you hear a beep, 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 beep.
Apparently I don't pay that much attention. when I get that in.
or your dad.
Any update on this sidewalk?
No, we're going through the process is all. The engineering has been done and it's been sent off, and we're just waiting for them to get back to us.
So we're waiting for Union Pacific to get back still, or?
It's Union Pacific and the state. We gotta go through both
Because
of,
we had it with survey,
right.
and did that come back favorable?
It did come back favorable.
Great.
We don't need to buy any extra land from, UP, so.
So we're still somewhat on track for the
Yes.
springtime construction. Great.
That's
And
great.
lastly, I have a question. Where Mineral Springs Road comes into town and it meets up with 10th Street, there's a gate that leads down to, I believe, a water retention pond. That was part of the development there, and a tree came down through that gate. It was a big dead, half a tree there. Who's responsible for that?
They are, that water retention facility is the responsibility of the homeowners association.
HOA there.
Yep.
Okay. Is that something that the city should notify the HOA people of?
I knocked on the door when it happened of the lady there, but didn't answer, and I don't have a phone number for her.
Do we know who the HOA head is?
Robert?
The HOA is aware of it. We've already bought the gates to be replaced.
And a couple chainsaws,
Somebody already cut it up.
just one part that sticks
Oh,
through. Okay, that was all I had. I was just
And
questioning.
you had a question earlier that you sent out, though. Did you get resolution of that on the sewer cover?
That's right. I did ask Public Works about, because I had somebody ask me, geez, we had a really nice sidewalk.
And they are.
Now we're gonna have a
I
slippery
saw that.
manhole cover in the middle of it.
It's really not that bad. We've got manhole covers on that sidewalk running down 99 about every 200 feet. And on that project, What you're looking at is from that manhole in the sidewalk to the manhole there by the side of the road. That's the public portion of that. That manhole sits directly on the property line between the city right away and Matt Kennedy's property. We couldn't have moved it either direction without there being a legal issue. If his private line became plugged, then you'd have a legal hassle of who's responsible for that because it's not sitting directly on the property line. So unfortunately, that's the way it was, had to be engineered out. I didn't think much of it because we've got things in sidewalks all over town.
To me, it's not the most favorable to have a.
No, it's
manhole
really
cover.
not, but that's the way that one happened just to work out.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Robert, any questions?
Actually, I do have a continuation of James's question regarding the sidewalk. I understand the manhole cover and placement issue. My question is, that's our only legitimate crossing from east to west across the railroad tracks. Any idea how long that's going to be open and why we didn't require them to make a safety walk around for pedestrians during that construction?
The safety walk around was my bad. I apologize in a situation like that. It was something that I saw too late, and unfortunately, at the time I was also on vacation. So, to say that won't happen again. That was my bad. As for the replacement of it, I talked to the contractor on Tuesday. They're going to be building forms and pouring for the new curbing along that section. And I also told them at that time they need to go ahead and redo the sidewalk so we can get pedestrians back through there safely. So his estimate would be by the end of next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Robert?
Nope, that was my question.
If there's no other discussion then for Public Works Department, let's move on to consent agenda. On the consent agenda, I go through and read these. A, approval of the minutes for September 15th, 2020, City Council. 2, September 24th, 2020, Special City Council. B, approval of the September 2020 check register report. And C, resolution number 702-202, a resolution amending resolution 655-2018, 655-2019, 682-2019, 688-2020, police personnel policies and procedures for the city of Hubbard.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I second it.
Seconds, James and Roder. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, 7, discussion regarding property tax exemption. Do we have Ashley on?
Yes, Ashley is on.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just have a quick update. Almost immediately after our meeting ended last month, I took another look at the statute because the council had asked some pretty good questions about how the city passing this property tax exemption impacted other taxes. And Mayor, I think you asked a couple questions about, what would happen to other taxing jurisdictions. And I told you that, the city of Hubbard only controls the city of Hubbard. And so this property tax exemption
You're coming in and out, Ashley.
Wait, she's,
How about any better now?
okay, your says internet connection is unstable.
Okay. So I'm getting great connection. Are you guys still not getting good connection?
Okay,
You
so,
sound okay now.
yeah, you sound okay now.
Okay.
Let's try it again.
So I will start over. So last month when we were having a discussion, members of the council, especially the mayor, asked some good questions about how the city passing this tax exemption impacted other taxing jurisdictions. I think everybody understands that if you own a residence in Hubbard, you're subject to multiple taxing jurisdictions, not just the city. And what I told you is that City of Hubbard only controls the City of Hubbard taxation. We can't exempt the county's tax or the school district tax or anything like that. However, immediately after I left, I noticed this provision in the statute, which is an odd provision, but essentially says that if the taxing districts that make up 50% of the tax for a particular location, 51% I should say, all pass this property tax exemption, one of those entities can petition to exempt all taxes. So if that was to happen here, you know, if 51% of the other taxing jurisdictions that cover a certain location in the City of Hubbard all pass this exemption, and they petitioned and asked for the City of Hubbard to be exempt as well, under this law, they could do that. But I don't necessarily think that that was the exact question you were asking, but you were asking questions about how the City of Hubbard passing this property tax exemption impacted the properties taxed from other jurisdictions. And so I wanted to clarify that. And I noticed it made it into the minutes too, which were really well done. So I just wanted to make sure that I answered any questions of that and clarified that point.
Are we 51%?
That I do not know. And I think it would be, you know, there could be some locations, it's all how the property tax jurisdictions line up. So, you know, you could have a house that's within the Marion County, City of Hubbard, but be in perhaps like one school district or a library district, or, you know, whatever other taxing jurisdictions cover that property. So it may not be a uniform answer for every location in Hubbard.
And so
So anyway,
right now, we're the only ones that are being asked.
That I'm not aware of.
But I think go around this if they wanted to and
Right,
get the
they got
exemption
the
through the
school,
state
the
and something
county.
else.
And somebody else, that'd be over 51%.
Right.
We would be.
Then we're automatically have that.
Right.
exempt.
So Carol is on the line as well, and I don't know if she'd be able to answer that for you.
That's the question I have for Carol. If she can hear me. Is this Cardis? Is that the name of it? Are they going to other taxing districts asking for an exemption as well?
Carol, were you able to hear Counselor Aldrich?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Carol, you're muted again.
She's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like I'm on a commercial. So there are 7 parks that Caritas is purchasing as part of their transaction in Oregon. And Marion County is working on its own application process as part of this. And but when I initially spoke with the assessor's office in Marion County, they said because 2 of the parks were within the City of Hubbard, which has its own separate taxing jurisdiction, as you know. That's why I made the inquiry to the city's website and why I'm here now. So as I said, there are 7 parks in total that they're buying that will all be affordable housing in Oregon.
For the Hubbard ones, have you put in a request with Marion County and North Marion School District?
It's premature to answer that question, other than to say that yes, we are in the process of working with the Marion County Assessor's Office, but they are in the process of developing their own application because this is the first time that someone has asked them to consider this property tax exemption under the statute.
Thank you.
So, and Judy did provide an assessment on the impact to us of 7,800.
Yeah, that's approximate for both of the properties, for the city's portion.
I'm sorry, Judy, what was the impact? I know that was an important concern last week.
The city's collection of the property taxes is approximately $7,800 of for both properties of that full amount of the property taxes. And that came from the assessor's office.
My concern is the snowball effect. I would hate to take away from the fire department and Marion County and the schools and so,
My suggestion on this one is let them run the process through Marion County. And if Marion County decides to drive it forward, I mean, then we don't have a choice. It's 51% or whatever they want to do. I am concerned about setting a precedent.
exactly. I myself would rather us not, as take a stand as no, we're not gonna open Pandora's box. We're gonna leave it so that way our percentage is showing that no. We don't want to grant any exemptions across the board. We start something else.
What's your thoughts, Michelle?
We have so little funds that I think every little bit counts.
$7,800 could put a lot into a park.
And don't get me wrong, this company's doing good things, but
Absolutely.
I don't want it to be on the backs of the rest of our citizens.
Todd?
I agree with James. I'm a no.
What about you, Robert?
I'm a no as well.
Do we need even a vote on this? I mean, you have pretty much consensus that the city wishes to just pass on it.
It sounds like, yes, sounds like there's just a consensus. I don't believe a vote is needed.
Ashley, I saw that you raised your hand. Did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, just a really brief clarification. So even if 51% of, or the taxing districts that represent 51% of the taxes for that a particular property, even if they pass the exemption, they then have to petition for it to apply to Hubbard as well. So it's not automatic if Marion County adopts it or the other taxing districts adopt it as well. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Ashley.
Should we vote and make it official?
We don't need to. Just got consensus.
Okay.
So it sounds like there's a consensus not to move forward with this.
Yes. But I do appreciate them bringing it forward and asking us the question.
And thank you for the council's consideration. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, let's move on. Number 8, discussion and update regarding COVID-19 policy. Hubbard City Attorney, Ashley.
Hello. Yes, I'm on this one as well. So a brief history. When COVID hit, the city of Hubbard, like many proactive jurisdictions, went ahead and passed a temporary city policy in response to COVID-19, which provided for ways for employees to ask for leave when the occurrence of certain events, a telework, I would say sort of policy that employees can request the ability to telework. And then on April 1st of 2020, that's when the federal government passed the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FCRA. And so when FCRA came into place, it applied to nearly all employers, with some exceptions that I'm not going to get into because they don't apply here. And so the city of Hubbard essentially started applying both. We had our own temporary city policy, and then we were also following federal law. I think most people are familiar with this, but I'll recap the highlights of the FCRA, which is up to 80 hours of paid leave for individuals not able to work due to COVID-19 and its complications. And its complications include, school closures, caring for loved ones, when a doctor directs you to self-quarantine, et cetera. So there's 6 different categories. So it gives 80 hours for leave to take care of COVID-related issues. That leave is not drawn down from any other bank. So it's not your sick leave bank or your vacation bank or your comp time bank. And then FCRA also provides for a limited expansion of federal Family Medical Leave Act, or FEMLA. Now, City of Hubbard wouldn't typically qualify for FEMLA because you have too few employees, but the federal act is pretty expansive, and so it does. And the expanded FEMLA addresses COVID-19 school closures, and it provides for up to 12 weeks of at least some pay for employees that have to stay home to care for a child whose school has closed. And just because it's been such a big issue, I'll mention when we're talking about a physical closure of a building. So when your kids or our kids are home doing remote school, and if a parent needs to be there to supervise them, that counts. So as of now, FICRA will expire at the end of December 2020, but I mean, it's 2020, so who knows? And also we're going into winter, which, you know, I'm going to go ahead and anticipate that we're going to have more COVID-like symptoms. So my recommendation was to streamline and just have one policy that we're following, so we're not looking in two places every time these issues come up. So my office is recommending that the city adopt a new temporary policy, which will make it easier for employees to understand and for the city to implement. So under the federal law, there's two, decision points the city has to make. So I wanted to talk to you about those. I have drafted your policy, assuming the council would go one direction, but if that's not what you want, you can amend the policy as written to change these. So the first one, under FICRA, the city has the option of deciding if emergency responders, such as police, are able to use the above leave. So if they're able to use the 80 hours, if they're able to use the 12 weeks. As written, I did not include that exemption in your policy, because it hasn't been an issue that has come up in Hubbard, and frankly, it hasn't been an issue that has come up in any of the jurisdictions that I work with to date. However, as I mentioned before, times are always changing. So if the council wishes to exclude emergency responders, the council can direct staff to make this amendment, and we would amend the policy in setting forth that. And then the second one is under FICRA, the city also has the option to not allow employees to take intermittent leave. So again, as written, the policy that I have before you does allow intermittent leave, but only with city approval, and it can be rescinded at any time. So if that becomes an issue later on, we can go ahead and pull that back. I have seen intermittent leave come up quite a bit, especially with working families where, a parent has to stay home because a kid's school is closed, and, mom and dad balance the week out. So I have seen that come up quite a bit. Really hasn't been an issue with the other cities that I have worked with, but I wanted to present it as an option that is a decision point for the council. So those are the only, besides adopting the policy, those are the only two, minor issues that the council has to consider. Again, my recommendation on both of those is to not exclude emergency responders and to allow for intermittent leave with approval and with kind of notice that it can be rescinded at any time. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
James, do you have any questions? Michelle?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Robert.
So on intermittent leave, is that where they are given the opportunity to leave for a period of so many days or a week or more, but they use their own time, or is this part of the COVID 80 hours that they're granted?
Yeah, it would be able to use your 80 hours in chunks, like I described. Let's say that, frankly, I have used it to care for my son who experienced an exposure. The example I used was the example of my husband and I, where, he took Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I took Tuesday, Thursday, the next week we divided it up the same way. So allowing employees to use it that way instead of having to use it in an 80-hour chunk.
And also that 80-hour number, does that regenerate if they need more time? Or how does that work if they've used that 80 hours, but yet we're still in this COVID concern era?
Really good question. So as of now, you get 80 hours. If you use your 80 hours and you're still experiencing, so if it's 80 hours for your COVID related, so I'm not talking about school closure leave, that is the expanded FEMLA, but for the 80 hours, once you burn through that 80 hours, if you're still sick, if you're still not able to work, then it goes to your sick leave bank. You deplete your sick leave bank, then it's, vacation and comp time and so forth.
Thank you.
Hey, Michelle?
So looking at this, because if we're talking about this as a temporary city policy, but we're only looking at adopting it for 2 months?
Let's to bring us,
Yeah,
Okay,
that's all that's.
okay. And so if it gets extended, then we'd have to bring it up again in
We'll have to
December.
re-extend.
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. So we'll have another decision point. So again, we have been following this, so it hasn't just been for the last 2 months. It's just essentially streamlining it. Who knows what's going to happen in December? If there's going to be another, extension of this law. We of course would follow the law, but if it required us to adopt a new policy, we would come back and adopt or amend or extend this policy. But as of now, it expires December 31st.
Okay.
Alan?
No questions.
Okay, so with that, we have a resolution of force. We have resolution number 703-202-2020, a resolution adopting a novel coronavirus COVID-19 emergency leave temporary policy and repealing the prior temporary city policy response to COVID-19 signed March 17, 2020.
I make a motion, we adopt it as stated.
As recommended by Ashley.
Recommended by Ashley.
We're gonna get this down.
I will second this.
Okay, we have a first and a second by Michelle. We have a motion and a second by Michelle. So with that, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Robert, was that a yay?
Yes, for it.
We have passed the resolution unanimously.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I'm gonna, Vicki, unless you need me, I will sign off.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need her for anything
I don't
further?
think so. The executive session is for the discussion. It's for an employee.
Okay, no, I think we're good. Thank you, Ashley.
All right, have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, appearance of interested citizens. Do we have anyone submit any questions or anyone online?
I do not, no, I don't see anything. Scott, did you have anything?
Just a question about the mobile home parks. How will this affect the residents in the park? Because I am in one of the parks.
It froze out. There wasn't any change to the exemption for the mobile. I don't know if you can hear me. It's saying internet connection is unstable, but there wasn't any change to the mobile home or to the exemption for the mobile homes.
Okay,
So I guess the answer would be that there's no from the city on our policies. So any change would be in regards to the new owners of the park.
okay. So the individual owners like myself wouldn't be affected.
I don't think so.
Should be, the city council can't tell the new owners of the estates or the mobile home parks what to do or charge. The request that was brought before us was to apply a tax exemption on city taxes for the park. And we declined it. So there should be no change from the city council's position on that should impact you, that I can understand from the mobile homes perspective.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, any other interested citizens or appearances? Okay, and let's move on then. Discuss for permanent election drop box. I think we already did that. So we jumped ahead on that. 11, other city business. Is there any other city business we need to bring in? Okay then. At this point, council would like to recess open public meeting and convene a closed executive session to review and evaluate employment-related performance of employees under ORS 192.6602I pursuant to ORS 192.6604. Council specifically requests that members of the media and other attendees not disclose matters discussed in the executive session.
Okay, let me pause.
I'm assuming,
Nope.
okay.